The topic of today's video is the Kawasaki 500 Ninja EZ Moto. In this video, we will explore its features, performance, and suitability for riders with an A2 license. The segment is nothing short of boiling. Nowadays, A licenses are being issued at a rate of 100,000 per year, and it's logical that this is a market that everyone is eyeing. Also because A2 bike is often the model that hooks customers and fosters brand loyalty. Today is the time to talk about one of the new protagonists of the segment, actually two. Let's discuss the new 500 Kawasaki's. I use Kawasaki's in plural as the Akashi-based company in this case expands its lineup with Ninja 500 and Z500. In fact, these motorcycles represent the natural growth of the 400 family and come to dominate a territory densely populated not only by Japanese brands, but also by Chinese and European ones today. Moreover, as I have already mentioned in other videos, these are true world bikes, motorcycles that are truly sold all over the world, from countries in the Far East, where they are real superbikes, to Europe, where they are perfect representatives of the A2 segment. That's why it's important to try them out and discuss them. But first, a bit of technical info. The platform is shared between the two bikes. Same engine, same frame, equal suspensions, but with different settings. Wide handlebar and street style for the Z500, fairing and clip-on handlebars for the Ninja. Both with a look that undeniably references the top-of-the-line motorcycles of Kawasaki in their respective sectors, leaving no room for doubt or confusion. The actual innovation is the 4.5cc inline twin engine equipped with slipper clutches. Engine announced to deliver 45.4 HP at 9,000 RPM with max torque of 42.6 Nm. This latter data is interesting in the segment because it is one of the highest overall. This is no small matter, considering that on bikes like these where power is limited by law, torque definitely plays a fundamental role in enhancing the driving experience. An engine that remains analog, featuring a cable throttle, devoid of any controls, solely equipped with ABS, which is mandatory according to the law. In terms of chassis, the Kawasaki opts for the classic approach, with a steel trellis frame and a non-adjustable Showa fork with traditional stems. The rear shock absorber, always Showa, is operated by means of a progressive linkage, and the braking system includes a single front disc of 310 mm with a floating caliper. The setup is different, more rigid on the Ninja, in a word, pragmatic. There aren't too many frills on the new Kawasaki's, but this has allowed the bikes to gain an advantage in at least a couple of things. The first one is the weight. If we analyze the competition, Kawasaki motorcycles are among the lightest. 168 kilograms for the Z500, 172 kilograms for the Ninja 500 in the SE version as we are testing them today. The base versions weigh 1 kilogram less. And then the price. Kawasaki has positioned its brand new 500 models very aggressively in the market. Extremely competitive prices when considering Japanese and European competition. To go even lower, you have to look to China. Okay, at the moment I'm riding the new Ninja 500, which is obviously and unmistakably connected to the Z model. I will demonstrate what you see from the saddle in this particular scenario, so the things we come across when we are on board the Kawasaki 500 sport bike. To begin with, unlike the Z model, the keyless ignition feature is present in this version, allowing you to conveniently keep the key in your pocket. The instrumentation on this motorcycle is identical to the one found on all the other modern Kawasaki's of the modern era, featuring a very clear and easily readable display. Although the display is not particularly large, it provides all the necessary information. There are no controls located on the handlebars. Instead, you will find the 4 turn signals: high beam switch, turn signal switch, and horn. To change the displayed information, you need to use the 2 buttons located inside the dashboard. The left button is used to adjust the trip data, while the right button is used to change the second row, which also provides details such as battery consumption, average speed, and more. Everything is exceedingly simple, immediate, and I must say remarkably functional. The non-adjustable traditional type fork, the dissimilarity between the Z and the Ninja, is evidently the handlebar and the fork plate, which I will proceed to demonstrate to you at this very moment. Currently we are on the Z500. The speed is 35-100, and as you can see, it differs from the Ninja. Fork plate, upper plate, the fork remains unchanged but has a different setting, and the handlebar is replaced with the handlebar from Nike. I must say that the handlebar, after years of criticizing the handlebar of the Z650, on the Z500 they have placed a handlebar that I like. The instructions are exactly the same. The difference is that there is no keyless here, so now I'll try to start it. The sound will probably be the same for all. Test almost finished. It has been an interesting day with incredible roads. I must say, above the Icante, we really had a lot of fun here. I have the two Ninja and Zeta motorcycles. Now, I'm wondering, where do I start with these amazing rides? To start, I'll talk about the Z, which I honestly like the most. The bike has grown significantly in size compared to the 400, making it the most mature and impressive model. The riding position is spot on, despite the close distance between the seat and foot peg. However, taller riders will appreciate the 3 cm higher seat. The Z is designed for people who prioritize secure footing, with ample pedal length for riding on tiptoes. The seating area is smooth and comfortable, with no issues. These qualities also apply to the Ninja, making it equally comfortable. It's worth mentioning that both bikes have visually appealing designs, sleek lines, and a modern aesthetic. The build quality is excellent, and the performance is impressive. Overall, I highly recommend the Z and Ninja models for a reliable and enjoyable riding experience. I start with the engine, which has been completely revised, not only because it has increased in displacement, extended the stroke and not the bore. This is not a small thing. They went to look for more torque, and they found it. It's an engine that gives you satisfaction even when you ride without pushing it to the limit, even when you ride at medium rifts. The character of the twin-cylinder has changed a lot, not only compared to the 400, but also compared to the 650. This work that has been done on extending the stroke of the engine, yes, but also on providing more inertia by increasing the rotating masses has borne fruit, so much so that now the bike has very convincing low and mid-range revs. My approach from the middle obviously is that the other regimes are a bit less convinced compared to the old Kawasaki twin-cylinders. Assume you rev up to 10,500 RPM, but the ideal gear change is around 8,000 because above that, the engine revs up, but the thrust somewhat diminishes. So, an engine that in the end, yes, I liked it, is nice because it manages to go smoothly without having to constantly push it. It even accepts an extra gear. I was coming out of the turns in third gear. In short, it always pulls you out. From 3,000, moreover, it's very smooth. At 8,000, it really has a nice kick. And it also helps that the bike is light. I must say the acceleration is not bad. So ultimately, I have to say that within the native A2 category, Kawasaki truly performs their job admirably. I observe a small amount of throttle play, maybe a slightly excessive amount, but this can be easily adjusted during the initial service, and certain vibrations do reach higher revolutions on the footrests and handlebars. But overall, there is nothing truly transcendental. One last thing to note about the engine, a bit of on-off. More than anything, the bike has a slight engine braking, but I think it's fine because being a bike dedicated to beginners, having a bit more engine braking that helps you when entering a curve is not bad, rather than a bike that glides too much. However, this affects the throttle response a bit. It's not annoying though, but in the end, I mention it. And what about fuel consumption? Today, at the conclusion of the journey, the car consumed 5.4 liters per 100 kilometers. I can assure you that much better fuel efficiency can be attained under normal circumstances, as today the gas consumption was significantly higher due to the racing-oriented nature of the ride rather than being eco-friendly. Therefore, there is certainly scope for improvement in terms of fuel economy. As for the handling aspect, I must emphasize that Kawasaki once again reaffirms the importance of not being misled by the attractiveness of seemingly high quality or falsely valuable components. Here is a traditional Showa fork, a mono, but with a progressive linkage system for enhanced performance. Both absolutely well tuned. Both work very harmoniously between front and rear. I prefer the Z a bit more mainly because the fork starts a bit earlier compared to the Ninja, which has a slightly stiffer setup, but also because it has 4 kilo more to manage, yet the bike is super neutral, super quick. When going into corners, it really turns effortlessly, also thanks to the narrow section tires. 150 rear, 110 front. I might agree on the 150 rear, maybe the 120 on the small bikes I would put it because it gives a bit more support, but the compensation is a crazy execution speed when riding in the twisties and corners. However, the CTX PK is truly absolutely balanced, well-rounded, and also very effective. The frame is really solid, and the suspensions, although simple as I mentioned, absolutely do their job. The chassis not only satisfied me, but it also exceeded my expectations, confirming the importance of prioritizing functionality over aesthetics. Sometimes it's better to have suspensions that may not look as good aesthetically, but work well, rather than having suspensions that may look very nice, or even brakes that may not work as well. The performance of the chassis proved that functionality should be the top priority in such cases. I prefer simpler things that work rather than more aesthetic things that don't work. That's my personal judgment, but of course, when you look at a motorcycle, the eye also wants its share. I truly appreciate the riding posture of the Z500 because the handlebar is slightly lower with a pleasant curve ultimately. We've often criticized the handlebar of the Z650, which is outdated, with more extreme upward-facing ends, while the handlebar of the Z500 is now modern and, in my opinion, fully articulated in terms of ergonomics. In relation to the brakes, there is nothing specific to mention. The front bite is very good. Half of the braking is good. When you start riding hard and go to look for the part where you need a bit more bite, perhaps I would have preferred a bit more power, maybe even a double disc, but at these prices you cannot expect much more. On the other hand, I really enjoyed the rear, so the Z is definitely commendable in terms of handling, ergonomics and execution speed, because it is truly a super fast bike, super easy to use even when you have good riding skills, so you certainly have a higher level of riding skill than a new rider, but it does not tire you out. It is not a bike that after 3 or 2 years you say you are done with, but maybe you go looking for something more, like a bike with enhanced features or advanced technology. It is a motorcycle that manages to present a challenge even for riders with above-average skills and experience. I enjoyed the gearbox. The clutch is extremely smooth. The only thing I need to mention is that the levers are not adjustable for either the brake or the clutch. You can adjust the clutch, but I would prefer the brake lever to be adjustable on a bike that will also be used by women because the pressure point is a bit far. The main difference between the two bikes is primarily related to the handlebars. In this case, there is an additional weight of 4 kilo, making the bike less maneuverable and requiring slightly more physical effort. This is not only due to the increased weight, but also because the handlebars are somewhat closed, perhaps even excessively so, especially on these sporty bikes. It is true that they are raised, so the position is not uncomfortable, but with the handlebars somewhat closed like that, you have to use your body a bit more than you might prefer, especially on a lightweight bike like this. Nonetheless, it remains an effective bike. Undoubtedly, the 500 is even easier to ride compared to the Ninja, but this is a minor detail for those who want to push the limits. Those who have an affinity for sports bikes will definitely discover a reliable travel partner in the Ninja. Certainly, in this place there are 4 extra kilograms that with such a small and underpowered engine are noticeable, and that is not ideal. So if I have to say which of the two bikes is brighter, I would definitely choose the Z500 in terms of its superior acceleration and handling capabilities. I will add one thing about the Nissin brakes, which are not bad when braking a bit aggressively with the ABS. Sometimes there is a slight modulation, but it is not really transcendental, especially the lever does not pump much, so in this case too, I have to say the ABS is good. That is pretty much all I noted about the two small Ninja motorcycles that can certainly be protagonists in the A2 license category. The choice is between a detuned one and a native one. Remember that these bikes weigh very little, and when a bike is light, it is always much more fun to ride. The roads here are exceptional, and I would even say that we can wrap up here. I will be waiting for you in the comments if you have any questions or if I forgot to tell you something. In terms of passenger comfort, I would say we are quite limited, so to speak, but we are talking about sporty bikes anyway. I will see you in the comments. See you in the next video. Looking forward to your feedback and any queries you may have. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more exciting content. I am eagerly awaiting your participation and engagement in the discussion. Let's continue the conversation and explore further insights together.